What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Dynasty Coaches podcast. We are finally back after about a month of taking off. Life gets in the way, and we just couldn't do it. But we are back now and ready to go. We got a lot to talk about. We had the NFL draft happen, just as good as free agent and all the rest of the off-season stuff that happened. I got Charlie here with us here, and then Nick is going to be on in just a couple minutes. So all three of us will be here. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple of our favorite picks, least favorite picks, and the most surprising picks of the NFL draft that, in our opinions. And then we're going to debate some of these running back groups that got affected by the NFL draft. So give our opinion on who's going to be relevant in these backfields and who's not going to be. So we'll start with some news and notes, though. First here, the NFL releases the 2022 regular season schedule. So make sure you guys check that out. Charlie, anything that stands out? I know the Broncos have 5 primetime games. About that.
Just, your typical teams getting a lot of primetime games. Like, if you saw a team that added a lot of talent, like the Broncos, they're going to be put on a lot more on the primetime slate. And what's interesting about that is that that Monday night game is against Russell Wilson's former team in the Seattle Seahawks. Yep. So it's a little bit, NFL sees that, like, all right, well, we got to put that on the slate now. A little bit of revenge game, I suppose, in theory.
Yeah.
There are a few of those peppered out. It was interesting to see the Giants play on Thanksgiving because they haven't done that in like 5 or 6 years, and they don't typically play on Thanksgiving. Interesting to see that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's kind of a lot of the same old. Your typical teams like the Chiefs got their share of primetime games. The Bills and the Rams are opening up this year. That's a great Titanic matchup. That could have been the Super Bowl matchup last year, which I think would have been quite entertaining. But regardless, we get to see that to open up the year, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of overseas games, too.
Plenty of games in London. I think there's a game in Germany, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Mexico City also.
Yep.
So get to venture out to the other countries that are big NFL fans. I know Mexico's a big fan of the Broncos. Now Jacksonville is always there in London for them. So, but moving on here, Jerry Jeudy is arrested on misdemeanor tampering with a domestic violence enhancer. He's going to get suspended at some point, whether it be start of the season or some point within the season next year, whatever. He also could be facing some jail time because whenever they use the enhancer, I know it's typically harsher on the penalty. So all that aside, what does this do for fantasy? Does this make Tim Patrick more relevant to you or KJ Hamler?
This spells good news for Tim Patrick and for Albert O.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jerry Jeudy was, kind of penciled in as the 1B to Courtland Sutton's 1A.
Yep.
Coming into the offseason. But with this news that comes out and with the potential for Jeudy being suspended, it does open up in theory, at least a large share of targets, which I think Tim Patrick would swallow up a good portion of those, as well as Albert O kind of stepping in and doing that as well, because he's kind of an athletic hybrid who could honestly probably line up and play wide receiver if he, was shed a few pounds and wasn't as bulky as need to be a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the two guys who are going to benefit the most. I think KJ Hamler is going to kind of be just the speed threat, kind of just what he's been already. So I don't think he's going to change too much.
Yeah, I think this solidifies KJ Hamler as that deep threat target. I think that they were going to share, but with Jeudy possibly being out now, Hamler's got the job. And then I think that Tim Patrick is probably the biggest winner here. I'm happy because I just picked up Tim Patrick in the 14th round of one of my rookie Dynasty startup leagues. So I'm happy about that, but we'll see. Alberto, he could be a big winner here, but I want to see it first. So Nick is finally on joining us here. How you doing, Nick?
I'm still trying to get used to this Apple computer. It's a whole different setup for me.
Nice. Picture's clear.
Yeah, it does look nice.
Yeah. we're just going over NFL releases the 2022 schedule, and then Jerry Jeudy arrested on a misdemeanor tampering charge.
Well, don't forget that it has the addition of the domestic, which could be an issue for him. I don't think the tampering is so much a problem, but the domestic makes it an issue.
Yep. So, what do you think is the impact? Do you go KJ Hamler as a beneficiary, Tim Patrick, Alberto?
So I saw something on Twitter earlier, and somebody was posting and said, "Let's see where the panic is." And it said Jerry Jeudy, 2023 second round pick, and I picked the 2023 second round pick. I don't know if I'm taking Jeudy. I just anything with domestic in the NFL, it seems to just completely get annihilated. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird because you have your Ray Rice incident, then you have your other incidents where they just get suspended for a couple games and then they're right back on the field. So, who do you think benefits though, KJ Hamler or Tim Patrick or Alberto?
Hamler. I think KJ Hamler absolutely benefits out of that.
All right. Luke Getzey says the system will enable wide receivers to be productive, and it should help Justin Fields. Does this change any of you guys' opinions on any of the Bears receivers? I know Darnell Mooney's there, but outside of that, they don't really have a whole lot. But it sounds like the offensive system is going to be surrounded to help them.
That's a lot of theory, and I'm not really gonna put too much into that until I can actually see this in action. Which is obviously tough for fantasy purposes. So with that being the case, I can't really make any changes or do anything right now. Besides Darnell Mooney, Justin Fields really doesn't have anyone to throw to unless you want to throw Cole Kmet in there. And I think honestly, for me, in all intents and purposes, he's probably the number 2 target in that offense, which really kind of speaks to the sad state of the Bears offense. So, it's a no-brainer for the Bears to want to, put Justin Fields in the system for him to succeed. But I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, last year was an aberration because we all know Matt Nagy was a colossal failure. But bringing in a new guy, Eberflus, and bringing in new offensive coaches and all that, it's going to be interesting to see. But I'm not doing anything yet until I can see a little more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a wait-and-see kind of game for me on this one. I just don't know. They had a great draft for wide receivers, and I don't know. I don't know who they got. I don't see it being this explosive fantasy production factory. So we'll see. Talk is cheap.
They picked up Velus Jones out of Tennessee in the draft. That's their only wide receiver they picked up.
And he's 25.
Mm-hmm.
He's old.
Yep.
At least for standards like that for the draft. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I hear you. Last news item here, and just actually broke a couple hours ago. Las Vegas trades Bryan Edwards to the Falcons. Bryan Edwards probably steps in as the number 2 wide receiver in Atlanta now. What do you guys think? Does he have a chance of being number 1, or is that Drake London's all the way?
Drake London stepping in and taking that role right away because Drake London's a do-it-all wide receiver who is, you could probably make – he was the first wide receiver drafted, so the argument was easily made, and the Falcons clearly saw that he was the wide receiver 1 of that draft class. And I think he's going to step in right away and command the largest share of targets. Bryan Edwards, he's been in the league for I think a year or 2 right now, and he hasn't really done too much to sort of separate him from the pack, from the other wide receivers, at least in his time in Vegas. He's going to get some targets, because he is the number 3 option in that offense behind London and Pitts. But I don't think he's going to, walk in and, take over that number 1 role just because he's been in the NFL longer than Drake London, because I think Drake London is a way more talented wide receiver by far than Bryan Edwards.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Steve, our main guy over at the Fantasy Coaches is commenting here. They do have a massive offense now with Kyle Pitts with like 6'7". I know Drake London is 6'4". Now Bryan Edwards comes over at 6'3". I'm wondering if they're meaning to do that or if it's just by sheer coincidence or what, but there might be some mismatches.
Because Marcus Mariota is going to be running for his life all season, so he's just going to have to be chucking that ball down there.
That could be their strategy too.
Yeah, they need people who got some height to go up and grab it because he's going to be chucking all over the place. No, I don't think so. I think maybe 1-2 of the preseason games, first 2 preseason games, you might look at it and go, man, Edwards is the number 1 guy. But I fully expect by the first game of the regular season that Drake London's going to take over that offense as the number 1. It's going to take him a couple of those preseason games to kind of get comfortable and sink in and let reality hit him that he's in the NFL now. After that, it's his show.
I agree. I don't know. Falcons are going to be bad regardless, so it's hopefully there's a couple of relevant fantasy guys in there, but so there's the news. I didn't see anything else happen, so we'll move on to favorite picks for Dynasty in the NFL draft. We'll go ahead and have Nick go first here.
I like Breese Hall to the Jets. I like it a lot. I think they did a lot of wonderful things. I think, I mean, you could probably argue, but I don't know that anybody had a better draft than the Jets did. They did incredible. And I think that offense is going to be something that it maybe isn't going to be a juggernaut this year, but it's going to be really, really entertaining to watch that team. So I like that one. My most favorite pick, even though I do like our wide receiver, I think Breece Hall to the Jets was what did it for me.
As for me, I'd like the Treylon Burks pick for the Titans. You know, the Titans traded away A.J. Brown during that draft to the Eagles for a first-round pick, and they immediately turned that first-round pick into basically a carbon copy of A.J. Brown in Treylon Burks. So it has a lot of those same traits, very physical wide receiver, but who also displays, you know, really good speed. You know, he can beat you man-to-man. And he's basically going to fit right in and be that huge target for Ryan Tannehill. So I think he can excel in that offense and honestly maybe even be the wide receiver 1. I mean, I know Robert Woods is there already, and I think he'll be the number 1 target to start the season. But it would not surprise me at least to see Treylon Burks take over that role as the season goes on.
Yeah, I saw a couple memes out there saying they traded A.J. Brown for A.J. Brown. So a lot of people were comparing him to A.J. Brown pre-draft. So I went with Kenny Pickett to the Steelers. I think that there wasn't a better situation for a quarterback to go to as far as quarterback needy teams. He's set up with a ton of weapons there, and I mean he showed that he was able to be productive in college regardless of his hand size that everybody was worried about. So I think that he's got a chance now to go out and solidify himself. He doesn't have much competition in Mitchell Trubisky, so he's go out and prove it now. So, but least favorite picks. Who you got?
For me, it's one of the guys on my Giants, and that's Wan'Dale Robinson. It doesn't make sense to me now. At least maybe I'll be proven wrong in the future. But the Giants already have Kadarius Toney, who was drafted in the first round last year, and looking at Wan'Dale Robinson's game, looking at Kadarius Toney's game, it honestly just seems to me like Wan'Dale Robinson's like Kadarius Toney light, a guy who operates best out of slides, got some moves, who can make people miss. So it feels like a little bit of repetition. And considering the Giants have Sterling Shepard as well, who they like to use out of the slot, and obviously you have Kenny Golladay already, the Giants have a lot of weapons on offense, and not to mention Saquon Barkley. All these other guys who are going to want to receive attention from Daniel Jones in that Giants offense. And Wan'Dale Robinson just seems like he's going to be at the bottom of the pecking order for at least, a few years, if not more. And I just don't think he's going to really develop too much into anything special, which would make him interesting in Dynasty. Maybe a stash, but I'm not going to go crazy trying to get my hands on him.
Yeah, he was a surprising pick considering you still had George Pickens, you still had Sky Moore out there, guys that a lot of people had ranked above him. So what about you, Nick?
So you guys might not like this, but let me explain. I don't necessarily dislike, but I am on the fence with the Olave pick. Just because the fact that we had to trade away future capital in order to make that pick happen. I love the player, love the wide receiver. It's just is it going to commute? Is it going to translate to wins? Is it going to be better for us in the long run to give up the capital we gave up to go get him? I don't know. You know me. I hate giving up draft capital to go in and draft players, even if they are as good as he is projected to be. I just don't know. And it also shows that we are really, really invested in Jameis Winston, which I'm not 100% with. So
I think Jameis is a good QB. He's just got to limit his interceptions. I mean, the guy threw for 5,000 yards. He's not a lot of people can do that. So they can limit his interceptions. That's been the Saints' weakness now. That's been their Achilles heel for a while now, is who's their number 2 wide receiver. They finally got one. So we'll see. I think that they could be a sneaky pick here this year. I went with Isaiah Spiller to the Chargers. Austin Eckler is just a hoss there. He takes up majority of the touches. I don't see how Isaiah Spiller is going to come in and make an impact at all. Because, I mean, you're not going to want to take Austin Eckler off the field with how good he is. So maybe in the future, I know Austin Eckler is getting old, so it might be a future pick, but for the short term, I'm not liking it, really. Most surprising pick, Charlie.
For me, we talked about it earlier, Meanie, is that Jahan Dotson to the Commanders. There were some other, I think, superior options on the board, including the aforementioned Treylon Burks and as well as, George Pickens, who I think should have gone in the first round, but, that's just me. Maybe even Christian Watson. I think those guys are all arguably better than Jahan Dotson. So seeing him taken in the first round and, in the middle of the first round where a lot of other players were available that Washington could have gone with was very interesting to me. Not that he can't succeed, because Washington does need another weapon alongside Terry McLaurin, and they have the best QB in a while in Carson Wentz. Doesn't mean Carson Wentz is anything special, but someone who can actually, throw the football. And so he has the chance to succeed, but this just came as a bit of a shock to me because that was not a player I had mock going anywhere remotely close to where he actually went.
Yeah, I'm hoping that their rookie, Sam Howell boots Carson Wentz for the starting job. I think we know what we've seen with Wentz. I want somebody new there, but Nick, who's your guy? Most surprising?
I think the number one for me was the surprising one. I can't even remember the kid's name that went overall.
Washington, I think his name.
Yeah, he was surprising. I thought for sure the kid out of Michigan would head up first, or maybe you'd see Thibodeau go. I didn't expect the number one overall pick. It was a surprise to me overall.
Or Trayvon Walker.
Yeah, Walker was a surprise to me. I mean, I'll go with the obvious one. That one was absolutely a surprise.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Aiden Hutchinson for sure. So the Lions got to steal it too. I mean, it's hard to say that, but you're getting to steal it too. They for sure did. So, I picked. I'll throw out two here. James Cook to Buffalo. I thought for sure Buffalo was going to get Breece Hall. 100%. I thought that was going to be the first round running back. I know that running backs don't typically go in the first anymore, but I thought Breece Hall's talent and Buffalo's need was going to land him there. And then Brian Robinson to Washington. I hate that pick. Surprised the hell out of me because now Antonio Gibson is even more of not a thing. And I think that give him a chance and he could be a stud. So, but anything else you guys want to say about the draft before we move on? No. Let's go ahead and move on to our debate. We're going to debate some of these running back situations after the draft here. So we'll start with the Bills. Devin Singletary or James Cook? Singletary stats, finishes running back 18 in PPR, 19 in standard. And then you have James Cook drafted in the second round out of Georgia. I want to mention something here. I've done a little bit of research since 2018 on all the running backs, and there has been 82 running backs drafted in that time. 19 of them have been in the second round, and 8 of them have finished as a top 24 running back at some point in their career. So you're sitting at about a 42% or a 42% chance of 73% chance of finishing in the top 24 if you're going in the second round alone. So who you guys got leading the backfield here?
Give me the rookie here. Give me James Cook. We know the Bills love to throw the football. Josh Allen loves to sling it downfield, and James Cook, we saw in his college days, he would line up a wide receiver on the occasion. You maximize his talents that way because he has game-breaking ability as soon as he gets the ball in his hands. And I think Buffalo is going to try to do their best to utilize that same concept and schemes and try to get him the ball as many different ways as possible. We know what Devin Singletary's done since he's come to the league. He hasn't really been entrusted as a full 3-down back. He's typically in the first and second down, ground and pound type of guy. But with James Cook, he can do a little bit of everything. His stronger suit is obviously pass catching, which is why I think the Bills drafted him so high, because they want more guys to catch the football. And if he gets a few carries here and there, that's even better. So I think he's the running back better suited for Buffalo.
Yeah, I fully agree. With Charlie's assessment there. And I was going to say the same thing. I'll take the rookie. You know what you got in Singletary. You know where he's at and what he's capable of. And like your diagram here says, James Cook was in a committee with somebody else at Georgia and still was able to pull off the numbers he did. So I take the rookie here, give him a shot, see what he's worth, see what he's got. And then worst case scenario, you pair him up and run him down.
Do you think he's got a chance of being a bell cow? Because like it shows, he was in the committee with Zamir White, so he wasn't able to overthrow him for majority of the touches. And Singletary is a good receiver. I know Cook put up 27 receptions in his best college year, but last year Singletary caught 40. So it was no slouch. Do you guys think he can be a bell cow?
I don't know. I think you're going to see a split. The fact that Cook wasn't able to overthrow his counterpart in there, I don't think Georgia intentionally held him back because he was better and they wanted to rest him or whatever it is. I just didn't think he was capable of overthrowing Zamir White for that competition. So do I think he's going to come in and make his presence known? Yes. But do I think he's a Najee Harris? No, not at all.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Nick. We know what both of these guys can do well. James Cook's obviously the better receiver, and we know what Devin Singletary is capable of, like I said before. So I just think it's kind of going to be a split off the bat, and I think it's going to kind of stay that way because James Cook doesn't really – I feel like he doesn't really have the build of, like you said, Nick, like Najee Harris. He doesn't have that build, the abilities of a 3-down running back. I think he's going to be a change of pace pass catcher, which is fine, which is what Buffalo wants. I think he's going to succeed in that role. He's going to excel in that role. But he's not going to be a 3-down back. He's not just going to, kick Devin Singletary out the door.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think I tend to lean more with you, Charlie, on James Cook. I would. We know what we have in Devin Singletary, so let's give the rookie a chance and see what happens. So, moving on here, Michael Carter or Breece Hall. Now I know Michael Carter was a 4th-round pick. Breece Hall was a 2nd. But it's more – everybody expects Breece Hall to take over as number 1. But is Michael Carter irrelevant now? Again, one of the better receiving backs coming out last year. Does he at least get to keep the receiving role?
Yeah, I think Carter showed enough to tell the Jets, to show the Jets that he still has a place on the roster. Mm-hmm. And I think he will kind of fill that 3rd-down receiving role, at least for now. Because in college, Breece Hall was that guy where he could do it all on the ground and through the air because he was a very capable receiver. So I think in time he will become that 3-down back and just take over as the alpha in that Jets backfield. But for now, they're going to want to, a sure thing, catching passes from Zach Wilson. So I think that gives Michael Carter the edge for now. But just in general, overall, I would much rather – I love Breece Hall for this Jets offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe the first year you're going to see them split time. And then probably into that second year, you're going to see Breese Hall towards the end of the first year, into the second year, he'll take over that offense. The young quarterback, he's still getting used to his team. They got a lot of new players in there, a lot of talent that's coming into that team. So they're going to have to learn to play with each other. And Carter already is comfortable with Wilson. So you're going to see him be that primary for the first probably half the season or so. But Breece Hall, make no mistake, will take over that team.
Yeah, I think they kind of complement each other. I mean, Breece Hall is your 6'1", 220, 220-pound back, and Michael Carter's your 5'7", 201-pound back. So they kind of complement each other. And Robert Saleh comes from the Shanahan offense, where, I mean, heavy committee. So I think that they probably both have some fantasy value. I think Breece Hall is going to be a lot better than Michael Carter. But I think Michael Carter still probably has at least flex-worthy upside. So, moving on here, Rashad Penny, Chris Carson, or Kenneth Walker. It's kind of crowded in Seattle now. But first off, do you guys think Chris Carson plays another snap?
Yes. But I don't know what the Seahawks are doing, man. They trade Russell Wilson. They basically tear it down, and then they say, you know what, we're going to use an early second round pick on a running back.
Mm-hmm.
It's really confusing. But I do think Chris Carson will get some snaps. He's kind of the veteran in that running back room, and he's going to be a mentor for Kenneth Walker. So I think it's going to be a committee. It's going to be a weird committee, but it's going to be a committee because you have three of these different guys, all who have shown they can be capable NFL starters, or at least the other two. You know what I mean? Walker wouldn't be drafted that high if he wasn't going to be used. So these guys are all going to be used in some way, shape, or form at the next level. So Carson will get snaps, but this is going to be a messy split. There's really no other way to put it.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly trying to figure out the time split here. Do I think Chris Carson touches the field again? Yes. Do I think he's going to have a significant role? No. I don't trust back injuries, especially out of running backs in the NFL. So, do I think he's on the team? Yeah. Do I think he's on the field? Yeah. But I don't know how much of a role he's going to have. But I absolutely agree with Charlie that he's going to be a wonderful mentor for Mr. Walker there.
Yeah, it's hard to predict what's going to happen in Seattle because when you spend a second-round draft pick on a running back, I mean, you're pretty much saying he's our guy. But at the same time, I'm just wondering if they drafted him so high because Chris Carson and Rashad Penny are so injury-prone. They have a backup option if both of them go down again. So I want to say Kenneth Walker is going to be the guy, and I mean, honestly, I would like to see that because you know what you have in Rashad Penny, and I mean Chris Carson's good, but I've heard a lot about him possibly. That's why the Seahawks drafted Kenneth Walker so high. Is Chris Carson might be done. His rehab and his back has been not good. He's had a lot of setbacks, so I don't know if he's ever going to get back to the number 2 running back finisher in 2020 that he was. So we'll see, though. I think Kenneth Walker's got a lot of upside, though, in this offense. They're going to be very run-heavy since Drew Lock is now their quarterback, at least this year. So, but moving on here. Atlanta, Cordell Patterson, Damian Williams, or Tyler Algier. I would say it's probably a committee between Patterson and Algier. But Williams has always been a thorn in the side of fantasy owners. I mean, he's usually the backup, but he gets enough production to where he's relevant. And Cordell Patterson might be used more as a receiver due to Atlanta not having anything at the receiver position. So Algier might be a sleeper this year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Algier is going to have some sneaky upside. We talked earlier about what a mess the Falcons are in. They're in their rebuild right now. And without too many receiving weapons, I think Cordell Patterson is probably going to see some time lined up on the outside as a wide receiver, as opposed to last year where he was more of a running back. So I think that's going to lead to more of a split in carries between Damian Williams and Tyler Algier, which would lead to opportunities for both. But when you're in a position like the Falcons, you want to kind of see what you have in your rookies and the guys you just got. So that would lead me to have a little more, I guess, faith in Algier to kind of see what he has in store, at least compared to, the vet and Damian Williams where you know what you're getting.
Yeah, I think Cordell is going to take on that role, kind of the Taysom Hill-esque minus the quarterback part, where he's a wide receiver, lines up at running back, he's running the ball, he's catching the ball, he's kind of all over the field, which leaves Williams maybe to come in, but no, I think Algier is going to be your number 2 guy back there and possibly take over that role. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, like we've said, that Falcons offense is an absolute mess, and no one in God's green earth knows what they're going to do. But I think they drafted the kid and brought in Williams in order to keep Patterson at the role that he does best.
Yeah, it's just hard with Algier because history says that a 5th-round running back isn't good, isn't productive. At least since 2018, there's been 6 drafted, and none of them have been top 24 or better. So we'll see. Hopefully, Algier can prove that wrong because his opportunity could be pretty good, but we will have to wait and see here. The Texans, Marlon Mack, Rex Burkhead, or Dameon Pierce. The Dameon Pierce move kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought they might go after a higher named running back in the draft earlier. But who do you guys think takes over here?
I like Dameon Pierce here. Rex Burkhead was kind of just a fill-in last year. He's getting old. I think his best days are behind him, and I think he's just there to kind of be a veteran mentor. Marlon Mack stuck behind Jonathan Taylor, had his share of injuries. And I like Dameon Pierce's game. I saw some of his tape from when he was at Florida, and he's does a little bit of everything, jack of all trades running back. And again, like with the Falcons, rebuilding team like the Texans, you want to see what you have in your rookies. So he's going to be on the field for, I think, a large share of snaps. And, the more snaps you get, the more opportunity you have for fantasy. So give me Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, my issues are thus, right? Marlon Mack had a couple good years, but he was behind an absolute monster of a line in Indy, and now he's down here in Houston. I want to believe that he can come in and replicate, but the numbers just aren't there. Burkhead, I totally agree with Charlie. He's on his way out. He's getting up there in age. I believe out of those 3 touchdowns, didn't they all come in the same game? I mean, he had one game where he just went down. So those numbers really aren't even reflective of his whole season, and they're dismal as it is. So I absolutely agree. I think your rookie's going to get thrown out there. He's going to get a chance to go out even as a 4th-round pick and really show us what he's capable of, and I think it'll be his team.
Yeah, this is another pick that I agree with. Could be a big sleeper. Like you said, Burkhead was kind of a fill-in. Mack, though, is one that interests me a little bit because the very, very limited amount of time that he got last year in Indy, he was actually decent whenever he was running the ball. He was still showing explosiveness even after his injury. So I think that Burkhead is probably out, and it's probably a committee approach with Marlon Mack and Dameon Pierce. Which one's better, I don't know. But I think it's probably going to be, I would say probably 50-50 split maybe towards the beginning of the year. And then Houston's not going anywhere. So by the end of the year, I think Dameon Pierce probably, if he's good, he probably takes over as the lead running back there for a while. But I don't know. Rex Burkhead is definitely not going to be a thing, I don't think. So moving on here, Elijah Mitchell, or San Francisco here. this is a crowded backfield. You got Elijah Mitchell, who was a 6th-round draft pick last year. Trey Sermon, that was a 3rd-round draft pick last year. Jeff Wilson, and then Ty Davis-Price, who they drafted out of LSU in the 3rd round this year. This leads me to believe Jeff Wilson is probably out and Trey Sermon is probably out because last year they did not show any desire to give Trey Sermon anything, even after their entire running back room was depleted with injury. So I think this is probably an Elijah Mitchell, Ty Davis-Price backfield, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And also, it kind of seemed like a lot of, off the field issues with Trey Sermon as well during training camp and during the season. So it kind of seems like his experiment's over. Same thing with Jeff Wilson. When you spend decent capital on Davis Price, and we obviously know what Elijah Mitchell can do. He exploded onto the scene last year and was a fantasy darling with the way he performed. And he's only 24 years old, so we know he's still got some years ahead of him in the Shanahan offense that can spell a great deal of success. Same thing with Davis Price, because they do like to run a little bit of a committee in San Francisco, so I think he'll get his share of opportunities as well. He could at least be a very valuable handcuff, if not as even a sleeper flex play himself. So I think it's going to be those two guys, and that's going to be it, unless they make some other additions that haven't happened yet.
Yeah, I would agree. After the injury-prone season they had last season, I don't know who all they're going to keep around, but I think they're going to keep a few of them back just to make sure they're not in that same situation again. But I agree. It's Elijah Mitchell's team to lose at this point, and I think it's going to end up being a split with Ty Davis-Price.
Yeah, I think Elijah Mitchell has a chance to be the bell cow, but he's injury-prone also. He was hurt, 3 times last year? Kept him out of 4 or 5 games. So we'll see. I think it's definitely those two, though. So, and then one more that I forgot actually to add, and I want to talk about here. I've already mentioned him kind of, but Austin Eckler or Isaiah Spiller. Spiller was very, very highly touted as the top 3 running back in the pre-draft. Do you guys think that he has relevance behind Austin Eckler, or is it Austin Eckler show for sure?
I mean, it's the Austin Eckler show. We know what we're getting. But I will say this much, Justin Jackson, when he saw his opportunity when Eckler went down for that 1 game or 2 games, wherever it was, and Justin Jackson produced at a very high level. So I know there is potential there for Isaiah Spiller if he has to come in and play. So I think he's valuable, but he's just a handcuff. It's the Austin Eckler show. If you're an Austin Eckler owner, that's the only real reason I'd want to go out and get Isaiah Spiller. Like, I'm not going to want to own him solo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. He'll be a handcuff just because it's Eckler's team to lose. I'm not a huge fan of Eckler, but the man produces, and it is his team to lose.
Yeah. Long term, I think it's good because Eckler is going to be 31, I think, 30 this season. So he is getting older, and you might see the decline, and I get why the Chargers picked him. I would just like to see him go somewhere else where he's got immediate impact. But we'll see. Other than those couple games, I mean, there really hasn't been a backup that has been relevant behind Austin Eckler. So we'll see. But that will do it for us. We got a couple good things going up on the website right now. We got our team articles still going. A couple of our newer guys are writing some good pieces. So make sure you guys check those out, and hope you guys have a good week. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Good night, guys.
Take care, everyone.